This won't be simple. Welcome back, and we have a major special for you with Keith Davies, and of course he works with Walid and Theodore Shubat. Tell us the name of your organization, of course, the website. We have the cut and post links across there, and the links that you made between the organization that did the documentary film that was used to hype up the Benghazi attacks by so-called people who were aggravated by this film, and the people who were also tied directly to other organizations sanctioned by Obama. I don't want to steal your thunder, Keith. I want you to kind of give the whole story here. It's pretty shocking. And there's other revelations that you've done, and you mentioned just before the break, in backroom deals made between various governments, including Turkey and Iran, and with the backing of the United States, non-aggression treaties, etc., that when you said them today, I'm choking on what you just mentioned. And people need to realize the next 12 months, this could play out and become very shocking indeed what's going to happen.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I'm the Executive Director of Forum for Middle East Understanding, and Forum for Middle East Understanding has two main divisions. The first division, which we founded, the original mission of the organization was to expose the Islamic agenda, counter jihad, exposing security concerns in the United States. And the second division, which we started 4 years ago, when we found out that there was nobody in the United States helping rescue Christians in the Middle East and Far East. So as a result of finding that out, we decided to start that organization, which is a separate division called Rescue Christians. But I'm on your program today to talk about a couple of things. The first thing is the Benghazi video, and most conservatives have discounted the fact that the Benghazi video had anything to do with the terror attack. Well, it had a major part, actually, to do with it, but not in the way most people would think.
Right.
When we first learned about it, we've actually written 9 research reports just on the video part of this scandal, and they can be all viewed on the website shubat.com. It's SHOEBAT.com. Just put in Benghazi video in the search part, and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff. But let me sort of synopsize this. First of all, when it was first reported that this video came out, and it was made by a guy named Sam Basili, whose real name was actually Basili Nakula. And he was purported to be a Coptic Christian. Well, we did some investigation, and ironically, he had a business criminal partner by the name of Iyad Salama. Now, Iyad Salama is a first cousin of Walid Shubat, who's my partner in the organization of Forum for Middle East Understanding, and Walid Shubat was a former terrorist himself. He knew his first cousin as being a very radical fundamentalist Muslim, and there is no way in a million years that a radical fundamentalist Muslim would partner with a Coptic Christian. So that initially set us off on a very suspicious about the fact that he was, as he said he was, or was purported to be, a Coptic Christian.
Right.
Also, he was indicted and convicted of a crime involving fraud and amphetamines, right, all sorts of criminal behavior, and he was given a suspended sentence, or he was given a reduced sentence if he would help apprehend Iyad Salama. Now, what's interesting about that is we were also trying to help the feds to try and capture him. We provided a lot of information to the feds, proof and so forth, and the feds refused for some reason to pick him up. We couldn't understand why. And through our frustration, we actually contacted the LAPD at the time, after they wouldn't pick him up, and one of the police officers there stated that he would go after him. And when he wanted to go after him and arrest him, because we provided, again, all the evidence, he was told to back off by the FBI, so he couldn't do anything. Then we found out, then we got a phone call from the Royal Mounted Police in Canada, stating that they had Iyad Salama in their custody, and they wanted to extradite him to the United States in 2011. And then what happened was the feds dropped the charges against them so they wouldn't have to extradite him, and had him sent back to Israel, or Palestine, some people like to call it, but Israel. So the feds deliberately stopped dealing with them when it didn't make any sense. Obviously, they had a deal with him, but they wouldn't make public. So then, if that was the case, there's no way then they lied to the judge in terms of the plea bargain, because there was no intention of capturing Iyad Salama. So then why was this guy let out? Well, we haven't established, we put it today, we have strong probable cause to believe that he was given, Nakula was given a lenient sentence in order to make this film, so there'd be no paper trail back to the feds. And they gave a lenient sentence for some other reason, lied to the judge, and then he was allowed to make this film. Now, we didn't have the proof that he was Muslim, but we got the proof 2 weeks ago when we got a phone call from an actress by the name of Cindy Garcia, and her testimony is actually recorded on a telephone conversation. She was one of the actresses that was in that movie, Innocence of Muslims, and she had spoken to Nakula on a couple of occasions, and he admitted to her that he was Muslim, which we had thought all along.
Wow.
Then the question that Americans need to ask the questions is, well, why would a Muslim, a radical Muslim, make a movie about hating Muslims or Islam?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense at all. Now, then, another couple of weeks ago, we were able to discover on the internet some really top-class research from the technical aspect. And we found that back in July of 2012, the video was promoted on YouTube by an organization called News Politics Now Free. And the person that did the research was able to trace that. There was 1.5 million views of that video between July 1st and September the 11th, when the attack happened in Benghazi. This was a really lousy video made by an unknown person. Like, for example, Walid Shubat is pretty well known. We get 500,000 views over a couple of years on some of the videos that we do on YouTube, but not 1.5 million in 2 months from some lousy video that was made by a nobody. So how did it just get 1.5 million views? It was promoted by News Politics Now Free. No one knows who these people are. So this guy did an investigation, and we actually have it on our website where we actually show the stuff that he did. And he was able to establish the avatar, which is like a sign above, that's just above, or just below News Politics Now Free, was a company called Stanley and Associates. Stanley Associates, we believe, is the people that promoted the video. And who is Stanley & Associates? Stanley Associates is a company, a federal contractor in the information technology and intelligence field. Formerly was led by John Brennan, who is now the CIA director. He was former CEO of that company. And it was purchased in 2010 by CGI. Who is CGI? CGI is the company that made the Obamacare website for $650 million. So if you take the two pieces of evidence, the fact that he's Muslim, the guy that made the movie, why would a Muslim make a movie, right, to slam Muslims, right? And we now have News Politics Now 3, which we are 99.9% sure promoted the video prior to 9/11. And the question is, why? Why did the government want to promote this video? And the answer is very simple. From a lot of research that we did, is that Hillary Clinton and the administration were involved in a thing called the Istanbul process, which was communications and conferences with the Arabs, the OIC members, in order to undermine anybody that criticizes Islam. So the whole idea of this movie was to be used now, but just before 9/11, just a few days before 9/11, the embassy in Egypt, in Cairo, sent out an apology about this video prior to the actual protests being held, which were done at the Cairo embassy and other embassies in the Muslim world.
Wow. So it's all a tight, well-orchestrated conspiracy.
Correct. In order to promote this movie, if everyone remembers, this is the administration that we have, and the Fast and Furious was to undermine the Second Amendment. They were supplying.
Welcome back, and we're joined with Keith Davies. Keith, let's continue this discussion. It's just like, like a minigun with all these facts of how condemning this is and how tight your documentation, and you have that over, of course, at Shubat, SHOEBAT.com. Can you give us more information about not only the film, but the background to the arrangements made between Turkey and Iran with the backing of America? What's going on there?
Yes, I mean, let's get started at the beginning of the policy of the United States administration, Obama, and from the very start. We'll go back to Libya and Egypt. I mean, if you look at the policies of Obama in terms of the Middle East, he has favored every single time the Muslim Brotherhood. In Egypt, he ticked off Mubarak at the very first speech. Mubarak never attended the speech at Al-Azhar University. And he's empowered the Muslim Brotherhood there. And then when they got kicked out, by al-Sisi and the people, Obama was very upset about it, and he wanted the Muslim Brotherhood back in. And then when Libya started, now Libya people, Americans were propagandized against Gaddafi. At the time, everyone's talking about how bad he was, and that he was a vicious dictator, and that he was brutal, and that he was a terrorist, and he blew up the Lockerbie bombing and everything. You know, these all things are true. However, 95% of the Libyan people liked him, supported him, had no problem with him, and because he was a beneficial dictator. He provided them, like, for example, mortgages. If you could buy any house of any value you wanted, and all you had to do was pay 10% of the value of 10% of your salary for 10 years, and that house was yours, no matter what the value of the house was. There was cheap gasoline, and people were well off in Libya. They had no problem with Gaddafi. Now, we had a problem with them, but the whole idea of the Arab Spring was to bring freedom to the people. Well, there was no indication, there was no request, there was no wanting of constitutional freedom like we have in the United States in Libya. However, Obama decided to have a war and empower the Muslim Brotherhood, and literally made that country into turmoil and handed it over to the Muslim Brotherhood. And then when we saw the policy then in Syria last year, where he wanted to try and start a war in order to get rid of Assad and put in place a Muslim Brotherhood organization there to take over Syria. Now, we all heard about the chemical weapons attack, and it was conducted by Assad. We didn't buy this for a minute. Within 24 hours of that attack happening, we were able to find evidence through video, photographic, and corroborated journalists, credible journalists like people who write for the BBC, right, who actually stated the opposite, that the actual attack was carried out by the rebels. And we were poo-pooed by most people, and some of the major analysts thought we were nuts, right? Well, about 2 weeks later, Joseph Bodansky, who was a very highly respected security analyst, came out with the same conclusion we did, that this chemical attack was conducted by the rebels, not by Assad. Then 5 months later, Seymour Hersh, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, and who publishes all his research in left-wing magazines and newspapers, stated exactly what we stated. So we had people on the left, we had people on the right, and us, and we were the first to say this, but we were ridiculed for saying it, and proven that the actual chemical attack, which still didn't get much play in the media here, was conducted by the rebels. Seymour Hersh, basically, through his investigative journalist, was able to establish that the chemical content, the chemical formula that made up the weapons were not the same as anything that Assad had. So they were done from a different source. Obviously, from other information, he was able to conclude it came from the rebels. So basically, that was a false flag created by Turkey in order to try. Turkey's desperate to take over Syria. So what happened in the last couple of months, we've just seen that Iraq has now been invaded by IS, right, and it's in turmoil. However, 3 months ago, or less, President Rouhani met with Prime Minister Erdogan, who's the leader of Turkey, and we believe, based on, you can read the articles we have on our website, that they came to the equivalent of the non-aggression pact that was signed between Molotov, the foreign minister of the Soviet Union, and Hitler, right, and it was just called the Non-Aggression Pact, that was agreed to divide up Poland prior to World War II. we believe that what was decided between Turkey and Iran and arranged between them, that Iran would give up Syria and their influence in Syria, get rid of Assad, right, and allow Turkey to take over Syria, and in return that Iran could take over Iraq. And we believe that Obama was involved because we know Obama speaks to Erdogan on virtually a daily basis. He's one of the leaders that he is in contact most of all. And it is obvious because if you look at the policies of the Middle East over the last several years, they've all been pro-Muslim Brotherhood. And
exactly.
Again,
pro-Saudi Arabia, pro-Sunni, pro-Muslim Brotherhood, pro-Al-Nusra Al-Qaeda, pro the most extreme elements within Islam.
Exactly. I mean, look, just there a few weeks ago, we give up 5 Taliban guys out of Guantanamo Bay for a deserter. I mean, it's unbelievable, and we're all asleep at the wheel, and we don't understand what's going on. We don't understand the policies, what's going on in the Middle East and the intrigues. And the United States of America, prior to Obama, had bad policies too, because basically America's policy in the Middle East is based on the price of a barrel of oil, and that's the policy it was based on, and it's a mess. And we've taken stable dictators. Look, there's no way you can have democracy in the Middle East because Islam won't allow it. Islam is a political movement. It's not just a religion. So you can't have a democracy with a predominant population of Muslim Islam.
Yeah, you've nailed it. In other words, it's 86% political system, 14% religion.
Right.
Exactly. Now, I'd like to get into that for a minute and crystallize how this agreement will walk out in the next year or two. Welcome back. Let's crystallize for a minute, Keith, how this agreement behind the scenes between Turkey and Iran that's been worked out literally has been sanctioned by Obama to allow the Shiites to take over a big chunk, which is most of Iraq, leave the north for the Kurds, and leave a section for the Sunnis, which are ISIS. And how will this walk out in terms of what's going to happen with Syria? In a sense, it's trying to say it wants to dissect the fingers of Iran away from protecting their ally Syria. And I don't think it's a long-range stretch because the real target isn't Syria, it's Iran. The real danger in the Middle East isn't Syria, it's Iran. Because Iran
that's not true. That's not true. The real danger in the Middle East is actually not Iran, it's actually Turkey. Turkey is actually the head of the snake. Iran is dangerous, but Turkey's more dangerous.
I know that's the old Ottoman Empire. What I'm referring to there by Iran, in the sense of long-term policy by the bankers, is they want to defeat Iran. Iran will have nuclear weapons, whether they get them from Pakistan or they have their own nukes, even if it's just dirty bombs of Cobalt-60. The fact is that they want to take down the regime. They didn't want to reach back to Mossadegh, and I agree that the Ottoman Empire, there's attempts to expand it, but as the expansion of the Kurdish Empire occurs, because they have oil now and military resources, I think Kurdistan's going to expand and take a big chunk of eastern Turkey. I think Turkey is on the chopping block. I don't think they're doing so well at all. And I think that the massive surge of people that have been pushed into Turkey from Syria is straining them. I don't think Mr. Erdogan is doing well politically in his own country. I think the people hate his guts. And I don't think that their policies are moving forward in a way that's making them any serious threat to, certainly they're not a threat to Israel. So I can't see Turkey attacking Israel, but I can certainly see Mr. Assad has no intentions of doing it, but the elements of the Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, and the extreme terrorists that want to take over, including, will by no means stop if there's an attack on Israel. And that's why I see the radicalization of Obama's policies making an increasing of chance of a war rather than decrease.
Well, I would disagree with you. I think Turkey has the largest army, in fact, probably larger army even than the United States in terms of manpower. Turkey's had problems in taking over Syria because they haven't used their own army. They've been using a proxy, using ISIS and the Free Syrian Army. And
you really think Turkey is going to? Do you really think Turkey wants to take over Syria?
They will do because when Iran withdraws support for Syria, which is what we believe is happening, right?
So you think Turkey will take over? Now, of course, you know that Syria has all of the Gerald Bolt supergun. They have all the biological weapons that were transferred from Saddam Hussein and from Iran and the biopreparat program in the Soviet Union. They have the largest chemical weapons facility in the Middle East in Syria. I don't think even if
according to the latest news reports, all the chemical weapons have been removed from Syria.
Removed to where?
Well, removed from there to outside Syria. So Assad does not have access to chemical weapons anymore.
Outside where though?
I'm not sure he has any, but that's open to our question. But
yeah, all my intelligence tells me
we believe that Iran is going to take over.
So if Iran did that, would actually be putting themselves in a long term in greater danger, because the real issue is Israel can't tolerate Iran with a bomb. And all of the push inside Israel is to attack Iran just because they have the bomb, even though they're 1,500 miles away.
Israel cannot attack Iran without the help of the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
They might be able to delay them a little while, but ultimately we believe, based on our research, right, Iran will get the bomb. The treaty that Obama has signed off with Iran will allow them to get the bomb, and we believe that Iran will not attack Israel, because that's the publicity, but Iran will attack Saudi Arabia, and they will destroy Saudi Arabia.
Oh, I agree with you. I think that Iran has much more bone to pick with Saudi than with Israel.
Right, and all intelligence reports show that Saudi Arabia is more terrified of Iran than Israel is.
I would say so.
That's where the big problem, and that's a major problem, and that's why we need to be energy independent, because the oil wells in Saudi Arabia are going to go up in smoke probably in the next 5 to 10 years, if not sooner.
Now, it turns out that there's much more oil in northern Iraq, in the Kurdistan area, probably 20 times more oil than Saudi Arabia has. It turns out that's actually from my oil engineer buddies. They actually have sent me reports. So the Kurdistan area has far more oil than Saudi Arabia has. And what that also means is that the geopolitics is going to change because the money flow will change. This is probably part of the reason why Saudi Arabia is in such a panic. But I'm not certain that Turkey has the guts and gumption to attack Syria, because I don't think Syria is going to go it alone without Russian backing. Even if Iran doesn't there, I can see Russian putting S-400 systems and 300 systems they have now, the Akan hypersonic cruise missile, all kinds of technology. They transferred a number of jets, apparently the Iranians did, to their compatriots in Iraq to try to fight against ISIS. I don't see Russia backing off from their ally Syria. Even if Iran kind of stands back a bit, Russia's not going to.
Well, that's true. I mean, Russia may not stand back, but it might take a few years before Turkey wrestles Syria free. But we think 6 to 12 months. But we think it's going to happen. I think Russia has its own standoff with Ukraine, and they got other issues.
So
you
think they'll be so occupied with
the Muslims. So, they could get distracted, and we believe that's what's going to happen. Turkey's a major power. The caliphate is Erdogan may not be 100% popular with his people, but he has the strings of power. And, Hitler was not a majority force when he took over Nazi Germany. He got elected, but he wasn't a majority force. Yet he held the strings of power, and we believe that Erdogan is on a similar vein as Hitler.
So that's interesting.
Muslim, Sharia law, etc., and that's the equivalent of fascism.
Well, one half of the population of Iran is Turkic. You know that, right?
Yeah, in fact, that's why the alliance between Iran and Turkey is quite valid, because they already have an oil alliance. Really Turks.
1 year ago, they signed an oil pact that actually had a pipeline transferring oil from Iran to the oil poor area of Turkey. So they have a giant oil pipeline bringing oil and gas into Turkey, they have hydro projects because they don't have any source of energy otherwise. And so having Turkey...
Exactly. And what's going to happen is eventually, down the road, Iran and Turkey will ally themselves together to fight Israel, to try to destroy Israel, which is also biblical.
But that fits in now. Yeah, but I agree. I think that they're far more likely that you're going to see Iran fry Saudi Arabia, but it's far more likely you'll see Iran and And actually, that fits also the Ezekiel 38 prophecies as well. So that makes sense. That makes sense. So, but you think Syria is going to fall? I don't think so. I'll tell you what I think will happen. I think that Turkey will try to make them fall, but eventually they're going to have to come to some kind of armistice or peace or some kind of agreement. I don't think that the exit of even Assad is going to be the end of the Syrian regime. Because remember, it's a very extended family, and the embedding, not just of the Alawites, but also of the Sunnis that have made alliances, the Maronite Christians there. One of the big problems that the extreme Muslims have done throughout the country is try to kill off the Christians, and they've tried to do it very effectively. They've even taken nuns in Syria as enemy combatants, these extreme Muslims that Obama supports. So we have the killing of Muslims by Mr. Morsi's group in Egypt. We have the extreme al-Nusra al-Qaeda killing off Christians and taking nuns as enemy combatants in Syria. And the Syrians think of themselves as Syrian first before they become Muslim or Alawite or Christian. And that's a little different, the same way as the Egyptians tried to meld together some kind of alliance to get rid of the extreme elements like the Muslim Brotherhood. So let's talk about how that plays into this picture, because I think there's going to be a few barriers. I don't see Mr. Putin letting their only base in the Middle East go in Syria. I don't see this as going to be a one-way ticket. I see the resurgence of the Soviet Union coming back strong. Back in a moment.
My experience is Obama twice, didn't they? They didn't learn that fast.
Different reasons. Now it's the other way. Welcome back, and there's various scenarios how to play out here. We're kind of just second guessing where things are going to go, but these alliances are really quite and they fit actually with the Bible, because eventually all these countries, including, by the way, Togomar of the North Parts, which is Turkey, Iran, all the nations with them, etc., which, by the way, does include Syria and these other countries, they're all going to be allied against Israel. But I believe that some of these things are going to play out. It's hard to say exactly how the scenario, whether Assad will be removed. But I don't think that it's my contention that the Soviet Union is on the march. And I don't think in any way, shape, or form there will be a fait accompli where Turkey, for the European Union or NATO, will take over the Russian base in Syria. There might be some division of the country. There might be the removal of Assad, but he's only one guy. His extended family and all the powers that be there, they're not going to replace them. It's just like replacing all the oligarchs in Russia or anywhere else. All the power brokers and all the military people that basically own all the industry in Egypt, they're all owned by military leaders. So this idea that somehow you can dissect the military when they own all the factories, I think isn't possible. But the scenario I see is that this latest alliance tells me that the Iranians and Turks are doing business like this pipeline at the very same time that this horrible war is going on, where 500,000 people are displaced out of Syria and a lot of people are dead. And we in America continue to fund terrorists that have actually sworn to take man pads and attack American and European airliners with surface-to-air missiles. Any comments on that, Keith? Because it's amazing to me that our president, who is basically a Sunni Muslim apologist, would support Al-Qaeda that's already sworn to kill Americans and Europeans with man pads and surface-to-air missiles. And Benghazi was a perfect example of the transfer of these weapon systems. And in fact, what I heard is they tried to get back 67 of them, and this is what caused the melee that resulted in the death of Ambassador Stevens. Any comments on that?
Well, yeah, you just take it another step further. I mean, the releasing of 5 Taliban leaders from Guantanamo Bay in return for a deserter.
Yeah,
I mean,
Muslim
it is
deserter.
Absolutely ridiculous. And most Americans who have any brain between their ears could see that was a complete stupidity. On top of that, from our research, we also found that the father of Bo Bergdahl, I think his name is Robert, is a fundamentalist Muslim himself. You know, most of the people are saying, "Oh no, he's just misguided." Well, we found on YouTube his channel, his favorite channel, and every single YouTube that he has is portraying these jihadists, supporting these jihadists, supporting the killing of Americans, right? And then he goes into the White House from the Rose Garden and says the Bismillah, which is Islamic victory, as the president smiles and grins as he says it. right?
Wow.
And nobody can understand. Everyone makes excuses for the president and for this guy. Oh, the poor guy, his son was getting released, and you have to be forgiving to him. I believe, the son is young. He joined the army when he was 19 or 20 years old. Right, the father, being a fundamentalist Muslim, may have had strong influence on his son becoming Muslim.
Are you kidding?
And may have had strong influence on him deserting to the Taliban himself. And that could have been what happened. We don't have the evidence yet to suggest that, but, the apple never falls far from the tree, and we take our greatest influence from our parents, and that's a strong possibility that happened. No one's taken that into consideration in the media, right, or taken it, and they haven't even been able to establish, which is pretty obvious, that the father's Muslim.
Well, there's an obscenity in the actions of Obama to release 5 major proven terrorists for a Muslim deserter. And I mean, if you look on Fox News, they are like in the extreme kind of protesting this issue. But we don't hear any other major media talking about it at all, about the fact of this doesn't even make sense other than a slap in the face to Americans and say, we're going to release Muslim terrorists, and we're going to release them for this other Muslim deserter who supports Islam and the death to America. I think, what? And this is Obama
right.
trying
and
to smirk and
the fact that Obama would not refer this to the Congress before doing it, because he knew that very well that if he did, there would have been major pushback, not just from Republicans but from Democrats too.
He had passed
the head of the House or the Senate Intelligence Committee was completely blindsided by the president and was very upset about it, right? And the reason he did it this way is because he knew that no one would accept such a deal, because they'd already tried such a deal in the past and was refused. And he goes ahead and does it without their permission.
I think it was 3 or 4 months before he'd signed a statement that he would agree that it only should be done through congressional approval. And then on his own word, he goes back and says, no, I'm the president. I just to see if the president could do whatever the hell he wants. It's like,
and then lied to us as usual, stating that his life was in danger and all this nonsense is rubbish, a complete, absolute garbage, right? There was no precedent at all to set free these 5 Taliban leaders, and it just goes from one scandal to the next scandal to the next scandal. So many scandals we don't even remember how many scandal would be.
Well, we should actually, you know what you can do? I've got a new board game I'm going to recommend you and Waleed and Theodore should put together. It's called Scandalopolis, and we're going to have cards and players, and we're going to have Obama as a late night TV host, and we're going to have an Obama kind of dancing in front of teleprompters as one of the game cards, and what you do is you can play this game Scandalopolis, but you got to keep all your scandals straight, and that's going to be really difficult because it's going to be like snakes and ladders. It really is.
I mean,
nuts.
we have a scandal. We have a scandal that no one will even talk about. I don't know if you even mentioned on your show in the past. Is Malik Obama, the half brother of the president of the United States, is a terrorist.
Right.
Who set up a charity, right? Which was granted by Lois Lerner, and the letter was written on a Sunday. Now, you tell me which government agency signed the letter on a Sunday to grant the letter of
this is
on the board of directors of Barack Obama is a guy named Bateson, I think his name is, right? Who is a former intelligence agency who was with Obama when Obama was in Pakistan in 1980. There's a lot of stuff that smells to high heaven.
Well, Pakistan was
with that, and no one's even talking about it. Malik Obama is a major guy. He is an executive director and works for Bashir of Sudan, who's a wanted war criminal, right, in the International Criminal Court. He's killed millions of Christians in southern Sudan, right? He's wanted as a war criminal, and Malik Obama, the president's half brother, is his sidekick, and and President Obama is very close to this guy, Malik Obama. They were best men at each other's wedding. They were best man at each other's wedding, and Malik Obama has visited him in the White House, and they're good friends, right? And how did he get a 501c3 signed off in 28 days when it normally takes at least 7 to 10 months at best? And if you're someone from a Tea Party, it takes years, and you still don't get it.
And you're referring to the Lois Lerner, I don't know how my hard drive got destroyed Lois Lerner?
Yes, that's Lois Lerner, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you've got the appropriate name.
At least a dozen research reports on that alone, and 2 congressmen have confirmed our findings as valid and true. One is Mike Kelly, and the other one was which just privately was confirmed by someone who approached him, Louis Gohmert, who I personally know as well. But Louis Gohmert stated to one of our supporters at a private meeting that the research that we did on Malik Obama is valid. Mike Kelly on a radio show publicly said it was, but as yet has failed to bring it up in Congress, has failed to bring it up committee, right, and has stated this is as bad a scandal as what we see going on with the targeting of the Tea Party. Yet no one is bringing it up.
Well, one thing I want you to
know, cowards.
The last can of worms, and I want to have you back on soon, Keith, because you're amazing, and your organization with Walid and Theodore Shubat.
Thank you.
Again, those organizations, the email website is shubat.com. The last can of worms I want you to open up is all the things that point to the fact that we're heading toward an event that'll make 9/11 pale. And I'm really concerned that all the statements by the previous head of Homeland Security, Napolitano, all the issues supporting al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, the weaponization with dangerous weapons that can strike aircraft from manpads, I think we're heading toward a 9/11 exponential event in the not-too-distant future, and Obama and his cohorts are the authors.
Well, if they are the authors, that'll be finished. But even if he's not the author, he's still finished because the political ramifications of a 9/11 that's worse than what we had, by multiplied by 10, will finish him off as somebody who's not somebody who should be leading our country on the war against terror.
I think he needs to be impeached well before the 2014 midterm elections.
Well, that will not happen unless the Democrats turn on him first.
Well, I think they are starting to.
A bunch of cowards.
I hear some of them are turning, although it's difficult to get the